What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Oak Tree Football channel, and in today's video I'm going to be going over my thoughts on the Eagles' loss yesterday to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They lost the game 29-38. It was in Pittsburgh, and I think the Eagles played a pretty good game overall, but I have some pros and some cons, some things that I think were okay that I'm going to talk about in today's video. So without further ado, I'm going to get into it, but before I just want to say, I meant to get this video out yesterday, but I had a lot of things to do, so I'm just going to do it today because I still enjoy making these videos, even if, the Eagles do lose the game. But without further ado, I'm going to get into it, starting with some things that I think were good, some of the pros of the game. And the first one is Travis Fulgham. In my opinion, Travis Fulgham was probably player of the game today, for the Eagles, that is, or yesterday. Maybe there's another guy on the defense who I think performed well, but he played really, really well yesterday, which I was really happy with. 10 catches for 152 yards and 1 touchdown. I talked about him in my game summary and thoughts after the 49ers game. And I mentioned him in the pros because I thought he had a good game. 2 receptions for, I believe, 63 yards, maybe 62, and a touchdown. And I thought he was going to become a bigger receiving threat for this team. And he has really been good in his first 2 games, especially this one. Especially now with so many Eagles receivers injured again, he's really performing. And it's kind of Greg Ward all over again, kind of a guy that got promoted up from the practice squad because of a lack of depth at receiver and just has performed very, very good, very unknown player coming into this. So I'm extremely excited with what Travis Fulgham has done to start the season, and I hope he can continue that because the Eagles are going to need a really solid receiver, because I'll talk about it more. They haven't really had the best, threat receiving targets so far. Next up is Miles Sanders. Now, Miles Sanders had 80 rushing yards, 2 rush touchdowns, and 19 receiving yards as well. Now, 80 rush yards sounds like a lot. It is kind of a lot, but I wasn't too happy with that because he had 174-yard rush, 174-yard rushing touchdown, which was a great play, and I'm really happy about that. But he only had 6 rushing yards for the rest of the game, which it's not the best stat when you really look at it. But he was able to get 2 touchdowns, also 19 receiving yards. Miles Sanders has been very solid for me. In my opinion, he's probably been the Eagles' Offensive Player of the Year so far this season. Made his debut of the season in Week 2, had a good game. Had another good game in Week 3. Didn't play too well against the 49ers, in my opinion, but I think he played solid again today. Or yesterday, sorry. So I like Sanders. I definitely like him as a player. I think he's a solid back, and I think he can continue to be better, a good player. But maybe I would have liked him to be a little better than he was yesterday. But still, I can't complain with 2 touchdowns and almost 100 scrimmage yards. Next up is Duke Riley. Duke Riley, a lot of people don't really know him. In my opinion, he was the defensive player of the game for the Eagles. He was really good. He had 12 total tackles, 1 of them for loss, and he also had 1 forced fumble in the game. So, very good performance from Duke Riley. I've never really considered Riley to be that good of a player. I've always known him, obviously, but I've never considered him to be great. But he really performed well in that game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I'm hoping he continues that because the Eagles have a lot of missing pieces on this defense. There were a lot of people that I was talking about last week after they beat the 49ers, and a lot of those players really didn't show up today, or yesterday, excuse me. But Duke Riley really, really performed yesterday against the Steelers. Very, very good game. And I think he could be good. I think he can improve as a player. I sure hope so. Because, like I said, the Eagles need really another solid player on that part of the defense, and just on the defense overall. And my final pro of the game, another defensive player, is Darius Slay. I talked about him last week. Darius Slay had another solid game as an Eagle. The first few games weren't great. I still don't think he's had an incredible game, but he had 8 tackles and 1 of them for loss, which isn't the best, but I think it's solid. I definitely think Slay is getting better as a player for the Eagles because obviously he was such a good cornerback for the Lions, and he hasn't been incredible for the Eagles yet, but he's really starting to warm up and become a better player, which I'm very happy with. Now, moving on to some things that I think were okay. And I think this is one thing that I think everyone's going to agree with me most likely. Maybe some people would say it wasn't great, but Carson Wentz threw 2 interceptions again. obviously, which I was not happy about at all. But he was able to find 2 touchdown passes and 258 passing yards. I think Wentz has looked better the past 2 weeks, but he really needs to limit on the interceptions. He has thrown so many interceptions this season. 9 interceptions, which I believe is the most in the NFL. I may be wrong. But his rookie season, he threw 16 interceptions. And then after that, he threw 7 interceptions every year in the next 3 years. In his 5th season now, he has thrown 9 interceptions in 5 games. That is not good. He has thrown 2 interceptions in every game except 1, and some of these interceptions I can't really blame him for, because it was just really good plays by the defense, or it's unlucky. But still, you can't be throwing 9 interceptions in 5 games, especially if you're considered to be a solid quarterback. That really can't be what's going on. So something needs to change with Wentz. I still think Wentz is the leader for the Eagles. I don't think they should bring in Jalen Hurts at all. Jalen Hurts has had some trouble. He's had a few. He's had some, not great plays. He fumbled against the 49ers, but was able to recover. But I think Carson Wentz is still the right guy to lead the team. But something needs to improve, because what he's done this season really has not been fantastic. I also had Greg Ward in there. He only had 24 receiving yards, but he was able to get 1 receiving touchdown. Greg Ward is probably the best wide receiver on the team that's playing right now, to be honest. That's the point they've got. Obviously, Travis Fulgham is playing very good, but I think Ward is the best consistently good receiver out of the bunch that the Eagles have playing right now. So I like Ward. Good touchdown yesterday, so I put him in the okay section. And then finally the cons, the bad things I thought from the game. First of all, in my opinion, the worst part of the game was Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz is supposed to be considered, one of the best tight ends in the NFL. 6 receiving yards yesterday. That is not good. And he was not very good against the 49ers either. And I still consider Zach Ertz to be a really solid tight end, maybe even elite tight end. But he has not played great this year. And I had him on my fantasy team this week, and he did not get many points. I can tell you that much. I don't know what has gone on with Zach Ertz, and the crazy part about it is Zach Ertz, there's no Dallas Goedert right now, which means Zach Ertz should be, really the main target at tight end, because the Eagles throw a lot to their tight ends as well, and I just don't know why, but Ertz really has not made an impact this season, and I hope something changes. Maybe it has something to do with Wentz's play, but still, I just don't know what's going on, and I think that definitely needs to change. And then you got the offensive line. I think this was the offensive line's second worst game of the year. They allowed 5 sacks. They allowed 7 sacks I believe it was 8 sacks actually, against the Washington football team in Week 1. Week 2, they allowed 0 sacks against the Rams. They allowed 3 sacks against the Bengals and 3 against the 49ers, and then 5 against the Steelers. I'm not happy with that at all. I think the Eagles have a good offensive line. It's just been so injured. And I think as it gets more healthy, the Eagles will allow less sacks. I definitely think the Eagles have a solid offensive line when healthy, but it just hasn't been great this year. I believe they've allowed the most sacks in the NFL, or top 3 or something like that, but I hope it gets better. Next up is John Hightower. This isn't really that he played bad. It's just that I've been disappointed with his play overall this season. He had 18 receiving yards yesterday. Now, if you don't know who John Hightower is, he's a rookie from Boise State. I believe he was taken in the 5th round. Now, I was really high on John Hightower coming into the draft. I really, really liked him as a player. He's a quick receiving threat. He's very fast. And I was so excited when the Eagles drafted him. I thought he would fit perfect into the system. But he really has not played well this season. And I know he's a rookie, but with how many receivers are injured, he's supposed to be one of the main targets on this team, and he really has not played well. So this really isn't a bad thing. It's just I've been disappointed with his play. But that can definitely change. He's only played a few games. He is still a rookie after all. But I just hope something changes there. Next up is the pass defense, especially on Chase Claypool. What a game by Chase Claypool, by the way. Good job to him. 110 receiving yards, 3 touchdowns, and a rushing touchdown as well. 4 total touchdowns. Great performance by him. And the pass defense just wasn't great. Ben Roethlisberger threw 3 touchdowns. I think he threw 200-something passing yards. It wasn't great pass defense, and I think the pass defense has been fine this year. I think Darius Slay was fine, like I mentioned earlier, but it wasn't great yesterday. Excuse me. And the final con I have is the defensive line only got 1 sack. In the first quarter, I believe Javon Hargrave and Fletcher Cox combined to get a sack, and that was it. I'm happy that Hargrave got half a sack because Hargrave really hasn't been great since he joined the Eagles. He hasn't been as good as he was with the Steelers, but he had another solid game yesterday. I just hope that defensive line gets better because if it's bringing pressure, I think the Eagles' defense will be a lot better than it has been. So those are my thoughts overall. There's one more thing I want to say. The refereeing really was not great. The officiating was not great yesterday. And, I could sit here and say that if the officiating was better, the Eagles would have won the game. But I think there was bad calls both ways. But that's really all I wanted to say about the Eagles game. I think they played pretty well, but still, obviously, they lost the game. I'm not too upset, but still. A loss is a loss. The Eagles are second in the division after the Cowboys won yesterday. Dak Prescott, of course, had to come out of the game injured. I hope he is able to get better because that looked like a pretty bad injury. So I hope he's able to get better. But, yeah, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to leave a like, and if you are new around here, feel free to subscribe for more NFL and college football content. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Go Eagles!